Hi, welcome back to Conspiracy Cases. We're looking at the Kennedy assassination, the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, not John, but Robert F. Kennedy. Last time when we left off, and you can go back and listen to the previous episode, Robert F. Kennedy is now the Attorney General of the United States, and he is continuing to make enemies. He energetically intervened in civil liberties. He supported desegregation in the South, and he alienated white Southerners, and it continued to irritate J. Edgar Hoover. He banished CIA officer William Harvey after Harvey sent illegal teams to Cuba to assassinate Castro. He unsuccessfully attempted to deport mafia boss Carlo Marcello. He angered the military-industrial complex by proposing withdrawal from the Vietnam War. He dismayed Southern California ranchers by supporting the right of migrant workers, to the extent that the ranchers, according to the FBI, put yet another contract on RFK's head, this time for $500,000. So if you go back in the story, by this point, there are two now contracts on Bobby Kennedy's life that are out there. After JFK's assassination in Dallas, the younger Kennedy headed for the top spot in U.S. politics. In 1968, RFK formally announced that he was standing as a Democratic presidential candidate in 1968. Just after midnight on the 4th of June of that year, after victory in the California primary, Kennedy was shot as he walked through the kitchen area of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. People have seen the footage of the aftermath of that. That is well documented. There are pictures, numerous pictures are out there. It seems in some ways like it's an open and shut case. Dozens of witnesses saw the assailant fire. Sirhan was the assassin. He was apprehended with the smoking gun in his hand. Evidence presented at Sirhan's trial showed him to be a misfit loner who had written in a notebook found by the Los Angeles Police Department, "My determination to eliminate RFK is becoming more of an unshakable obsession." Of Jordanian descent, Sirhan had been enraged by pro-Israel comments made by RFK. An open and shut case was followed by an open and shut trial. Sirhan admitted openly, "I killed Robert Kennedy willfully. I premeditated it with 20 years of forethought." Convicted of first-degree murder, Sirhan was sentenced to the gas chamber, and his sentence was later commuted to life imprisonment. That's what happened. But in the world of conspiracy cases, there are holes, always holes, literally, in the prosecution of the case. In an exhaustive analysis of RFK's murder, the Robert F. Kennedy assassination, Professor Philip H. Melanson shows that at least 11 bullets were fired that night in the Ambassador kitchen. Sirhan's Ivor Johnson .22 revolver, the only weapon that Sirhan had that evening, held 8 bullets. So hear what I just said. The gun that was used to kill Bobby Kennedy contained 8 bullets. Yet, 11 shots were fired that night in the kitchen. Moreover, coroner Thomas Noguchi recorded that the bullet which actually killed Kennedy was fired from very close, inches at most, behind his head, leaving powder residue on his body. But every witness agreed that Sirhan was in front of Robert F. Kennedy, and no closer than a yard, a meter, from him. Sirhan was then not the only shooter on the scene, and if that is all true, which that's what the evidence has shown, that would mean that Sirhan is not the killer. Various eyewitnesses recall a woman in a polka dot dress running from the scene shouting, "We shot him." For almost 20 years, the Los Angeles Police Department sat on the RFK assassination documents. And so when the book by Professor Melanson was being written, and when they were finally allowed to view the records, Many, by this time, were found to have been lost, destroyed, or redacted and censored by the LAPD. Among the evidence destroyed were 2,400 photographs, including a roll of film taken of the actual shooting, no longer available. 3,000 transcripts of interviews, and the door frame from the kitchen in which a number of bullets had lodged. So it begs the question, if there was another gun, who fired it? Aside from the mysterious woman in the polka dot dress, the light of historical inquiry has begun to shine brighter and brighter on a man by the name of Thane Caesar, the ace security guard who stood directly behind RFK in the ambassador kitchen that night. Several bystanders testified that Caesar pulled a gun during the shooting. Don Schulman, an eyewitness and journalist for KNXT TV, reported live, the security guard hit Kennedy all 3 times. Despite being mortally wounded, RFK turned around and grabbed at Caesar and pulled his bow tie off. It can be seen clearly on the ground next to the stricken RFK in the photographs. Was Kennedy's lunge at Caesar an attempt to get his grips on his assailant? Caesar was a voracious right-winger who lied and contradicted himself in his testimonies to police. He declared that he had sold his own .22 handgun before the 4th of June, but it was subsequently proved that he had sold it afterwards. Yet, the Los Angeles Police Department never investigated Caesar. Assuming a second gun killed RFK, the role of Sirhan requires explanation. After all, Sirhan declared on oath that he was Kennedy's killer. William Turner and John Christian, in the book called The Assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, written in 1978, and then, of course, Melanchon's book, The R.F. Kennedy Assassination, suggested the Manchurian candidate theory, that Sirhan was programmed by hypnosis, if you will, to assassinate RFK. Manchurian candidate theory is fantastic, probably unbelievable, and maybe just a little bit viable. In 1954, a CIA memo on the Artichoke Project, undertaken as part of the notorious MK Ultra program, proposed using a hypno-programmed assassin to assassinate certain political leaders. It was a real project, and it became the stuff of a movie. But according to doctors who were involved and who could actually perform and do this type of hypnosis, only 10% of Americans were viable candidates for this type of treatment. The CIA may have had some possible motives to assassinate Robert F. Kennedy. On his ascension to the White House, he would have discovered the agency's complicity, if any, in the assassination of his brother, perhaps. Or if the Bay of Pigs fiasco was involved, maybe, just maybe, there was evidence that tied it back to the CIA. Those who speculate on such things have suggested. On November 20th, 2006, the BBC's Newsnight presented research by Shane O'Sullivan alleging that several CIA agents were also present that night at the Ambassador Hotel. Even though the CIA has no reason to be there, it doesn't have any domestic jurisdiction. 3 of those accused were ex-senior officers who, it is believed, were part of the conspiracy group or the hub behind Kennedy's assassination. Today, Sirhan protests his innocence. The official version of the story is that he and he alone is the assassin of RFK. The bullets don't add up. The footage and the evidence that is missing will never be recovered. But then why was it that Bobby Kennedy took the time to turn to the man that was standing behind him and grab at him in a desperate attempt to do something? All of that has caused many to believe that this conspiracy case is alive and well. One conspiracy analyst broke it down, and on a scale of 1 to 10, when asked about the probability of there being a conspiracy to kill Bobby Kennedy, gave it a solid 9, with an exclamation point behind it. Did it happen? Did it not? We'll continue to look at that, but more importantly, the implications of it in our next episode.